Question from Puneet Kinariwala. He wants us to explain tax on vacant house for 1 year after completion certificate. Does it mean that developers will be taxed if they have unsold inventory for more than 1 year after receipt of the completion certificate? Will this compel builders to cut prices and sell property within 1 year of receipt of completion certificate? We'll talk about how home buyers have been hit a little after this. But Jayesh, the fact is the middle class is feeling very, very left out of the budget. And from the looks of the questions that we are getting, they're trying to clutch at these straws that the finance minister essentially tossed. And they're hoping that it will benefit them. What do you say?
See, I would say that this is, again, in a sense that people should not take it as a kind of a high expectation point of proposal kind of, because see, there was a controversy around this, Kavita, to say that when the developer has a stock which is available for sale and it has not been sold, so the revenue has been taking a position that it is deemed to have been let out, and therefore the notional annual rental which it would fetch otherwise would be a kind of income from house property, and then certain deductions would be available and taxable even though it has not been let out. So which is a similar provision for a second home owner where he is not able to let it out. Now here what in a sense it is like can be interpreted in two ways. Earlier there was no provision for taxing this kind of stock in trade which is available with a developer. But now what has happened that formally now the law has been introduced to say that this will be taxed in the hands of the developer. But the concession has been given that up till first year there won't be any taxation. So coming back to your point, that will that kind of create a pressure on the developer to sell? To my mind, I would say not the pressure, but certainly the developer would plan to see to it that they will be able to sell most of the houses before the project is completed, because it talks about 1 year from the date of the completion of the project. So they will definitely try. But again, one has to see the what you call it as a market dynamics, market realities. And I think the developer are not worried about this. If there is no market, if they were to hold it, then I don't think that they would be worried about the taxation on this. Yes, it is not the kind of a right proposition, and it has not been kind of taken with a good taste. But I think with the kind of incentives which have been made available in this year's budget to the sector, I think this is a small, I would say, pinch in the salt which they are going to take.
And this essentially, it's one of the costs of doing business for the developer.
Yeah,
also.
It's a cost of doing
they will
business.
hold it.
Absolutely. So that doesn't mean that the developer will start selling their properties at a kind of a 20%, 30% lower price to get away with this taxation, because this is not going to be a significant tax for them, and they will, I think, hold back if they are not going to get the right price.
Right. So Puneet, you're not really going to see prices come down because of that particular announcement by the finance minister. In fact, it was an announcement that was actually pro-industry and something that the industry has been lobbying for quite some time. But I know Ravi is on the line with us from Delhi, and he has a question. Ravi, I request you to hold on a little, because there is something very important that I need to ask you, Jayesh.
Sure.
And you spoke about notional gains from unoccupied property, the deemed let out. Now, we know that when home buyers, and this is when you buy a second home, and when you lease out property, there is technically no ceiling on the income tax, on the deduction that you can claim on interest tax, on interest. But even that has been capped in this year's budget. It is part of the amendments that have been brought in really to the finance bill. How is that really going to impact the home buyer? Does it really make any sense now to buy a second home from the tax perspective?
Yes, certainly, Kavita, you are right that earlier for a second home buyer, there was no limit on the allowability of deduction of interest which he used to pay on the funds borrowed for buying that second home. Now, what was the thinking behind the regulators to bring in this kind of limit? Is that this was being, I would say, used as a kind of what you call it as a mischief. And people used to borrow money and then invest and then claim this deduction against various other income, and at the same time enjoying the benefit of appreciation and selling the flat at a much higher price, and they're also claiming the deduction by reinvesting, either claim as a long-term capital gains tax benefit or reinvest into other property and buy. So therefore, there was a kind of upside which was available. And if you look at the budget, the focus is more on giving benefits to the home buyers and also a benefit to the developer to construct affordable housing, and not to kind of incentivize the investors community in that sense. And plus also to plug this mischief rule, this, I would say, the amendment has been introduced, which provides that if you are a home buyer and having a second home, and if you have let out that property, and if you have borrowed money, then your interest deduction would be restricted to 2 lakhs, which is similar to like interest deduction up to 2 lakhs for a self-occupied property. So it has been made at par. But one good thing, it has been kind of brought that the balance or the excess interest can be carried forward as what you call it as the loss, and which can be set off against your income from house property and not from any other income. So this is, to my mind, that this is a, I would say, some mischief rule. Will it kind of, to your question, that will it disincentivize the investor to kind of invest into a second home? My answer would be no. It depends on the situation to situation, because real estate today is still a very good asset class as compared to other investments, given that the rate of interest which is going down on the fixed deposits, bank fixed deposit rates are going down, overall rates are also, lending rates are going down. So if you look at the investments, the tax-free investments which the investor will enjoy due to the exemption under section 54, I think still one can have what you call it as 12 to 15% tax-free return, and then in lieu of that, if there is a foregoing the additional interest claim, then I think still it will offset kind of. So it all depends on, I would say, the situation to situation, and one cannot generalize that the people will not go for a second home buying, or people will not now invest in real estate.
But the fact of the matter is, if you
yes,
had
it is,
bought
it
that
is.
home,
As an investor, yes, it is a loss, and it is a kind of,
a loss
my
that
IRR will go down if I look at my kind of IRR on the investment proposition. So I'll keep that in mind, and to that extent, yes, it will impact.
it does make, as an asset class, it does make real estate a little less attractive. But the fact is this: if you are buying that second home and you are hoping that you've taken a home loan and you will be able to offset more of your income tax, you will be able to claim more deduction. That is not going to be possible in the new financial year. You will only be able to claim up to 2 lakh rupees as exemption. That's it. That has been capped according to the budget that was presented on February 1st. Ravi is on the line.
I wish, just before we move on to the next point, I wish the finance minister should have increased the limit for interest deduction for the first home.
I was just about coming to that. That in fact, that's what
5 lakhs. Because that's the, I think today the
that was the most popular demand. That's what everybody was asking for.
And
but
really that would have helped the, I would say, the home buyers.
But sadly, what has happened is he's taken away the deduction. He's reduced the deduction that you were getting for the second home, and he's not really given you any benefits for the first home buyer.
You can watch live TV on our website mpnow.in. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/magicbricksnow. And don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at magicbricksnow. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/magicbricksnow.